Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Flux Motorsport TV. My name's Murphy, and I'm going to be bringing you tonight's GT3 Championship race around Laguna, Seca. So we're heading into the California desert. Things are definitely going to be hot, both inside the cockpits of these cars and outside. Looking like it's a little bit overcast at the moment, but the sun's going to soon clear up just in time for the end of this qualification session and going into 45 minutes of frantic GT3 action on track today. Looking like we're getting a full grid of drivers at the moment. 14 making up the grid today. Only one has called in sick, which is Clark. So rest of the drivers looking to maximise their point potential, with two new drivers joining the championship at this midway point as well. Whilst we're waiting for these guys to get their qualification session really underway, no laps set just yet. Let's have a quick overview over the standings as they are. So Bahrain is actually joint top at the moment with St. Bath on 83 points, with 1 to 13 in third place on 80 points. Where's Bruce Law, you might be asking? Well, after his did not finish a couple of weeks ago, got disconnected, he now finds himself in fourth place on 73. So 10 points the deficit between Bruce Law, who has won every race that he started in this championship, but 10 points is very little, especially when he tends to pick up a bonus point for his qualification run, provided that he gets that pole position place. And we quite often find him as well picking up the fastest lap from the race as well. I think Bahrain has only managed to take that bonus point off him just the once so far this season. So as we run a little bit further down the running order, Clark, who's absent today, currently resides in 5th position in the championship, with Al Axon finding himself in 6th. That is all U82. Luke 42, after his good performance last week, finds himself jumping up into 7th on 43 points, which is actually jointed with Lecky 2000, who also had a really good run in last time around. He looks as though he's starting to get to grips with these GT3 cars, car class that has often eluded him. Then as we move down to 9th position, after we've got two joint 7ths, it's All Right Turkish, followed by Luna Zodiac. They're on 33 points and 30 points respectively. And then in 11th place, KML Bryan, followed by Old Smoky in 12th place, with Dr. Popford and Immortalis, the new drivers to this championship in today's race. So as we approach the 5-minute mark, just seeing Old Smoky there getting a little bit smoky coming out of turn 2. Looks as though St. Bath is currently ruling the roost in his Audi R8, followed by Fast AF Gamer and Bruce Law right behind them, less than a second separating the top 3 at the moment. But that is only after one lap, so we'll wait and see how that begins to hot up as we progress on through. So Bath there bringing a bit of dirt up from the corkscrew. I want to try and avoid that when we get into the later stages of this race. As we found out in the GT1s, me personally, that once these tyres do start to hot up, any little bits of dirt that you end up picking up are going to absolutely ruin your chances of getting a clean lap the next time around. So St. Bath returns to the pit. Let's go over to Fast AF Gamer in his BMW M6. Currently second in this qualification round. I don't think it's going to be a large improvement, but it's enough just to take off a 100th or so from his lap time. So small improvements being made by Fast AF. Let's switch over to Bruce Law, currently residing in 3rd place in this provisional grid. Looks as though all U82 could well be All Right Turkish as well, but all U82, I'm assuming, currently in 4th place, making up the best of the rest. Still finding themselves almost 2 seconds off the pace of the top 3 at the moment though, so that's quite a big deficit already starting to form. And as you're watching tonight, let me know your comments. I have actually got my screen up in front of me this time around, so I should hopefully be able to see the comments as they come through. Let me know whereabouts you're watching this in, as we see Bruce Law there getting absolutely airborne. I bet he couldn't do that again if he tried. Fantastic view, that. So yeah, let me know whereabouts you're watching it. Let me know what your predictions are for the race. If you've got any favourites, let me know who they are. And then they're documented down and you can say I told you so should they come to fruition. Let's try and pick out one of our new guys. So Dr. Pockford at the moment in the bright yellow number 31 Ferrari. Looking to get his GT3 career here at Flux Motorsport started with a big impact, and he's finding himself mid-pack at the moment in the grid. Not too far away from stepping up either. He's only half a second away from Immortalis, who's the other new guy to this bunch, currently sat in 6th place on the grid. It's going to be an interesting one with these two newcomers. Just observing the lines now as they get those tyres heated up. Looks as though Dr. Pockford actually on cold tyres at the moment. You can see just in the top right hand side of our screen those hard slicks currently getting up to temperature, especially on the right hand side, but still probably going to have a couple of laps before these tyres are really on point and he can really start to push the car. 11 minutes 20 remaining of the session. Big hello to Ego and Marcus watching on the stream tonight. Marcus, a usual supporter of KML Brian. Ego, one of our passionate community members, looking to get himself involved in our championships coming up in the next few weeks, I'm sure, once he's gone through his rookie evaluation. And of course, if you're watching this either live or from the YouTube channel and you fancy getting involved in some competitive PlayStation 4 Project Cars 2 action, head on over to FluxMotorsport.com and you'll find the information on how you can join the community, as well as our social media links to keep yourself updated with the toings and goings. So it looks as though we've got a cardinal sin from our new boy. It looks as though we've got two cars operating in the number 31 livery, so Immortalis as well operating in that yellow Ferrari. We'll call them teammates for today's race. That will have to get sorted next week though. It looks as though Immortalis is absolutely throwing that Ferrari around. Not looking the most planted, but it's certainly looking pretty quick. So we're just reaching the halfway point now of the qualification session. St. Bath continues in his provisional pole position. Fast AF Gamer finds himself less than 1/10 behind him, so these margins getting very small now, with Bruce Law in 3rd position. Only 2/10 or less than 2/10 separating 1st and 3rd so far. 9 minutes to go though, so improvements can be made. There's plenty of time for laps in what is a relatively short track, this Laguna Seca circuit. Let's have a look over to Fast AF at the moment. Looks as though Bruce Law has brought that deficit down a little bit further as well. Fast AF just coming towards the end of his lap, coming into the final turn now. And let's see if there's going to be an improvement made here. Crosses the line, but it's not enough this time around. We'll flick on over to Bruce Law and see how his Mercedes AMG is getting on. Just approaching the halfway point of this lap, so we'll have to wait with bated breath to see whether or not an improvement can be made, or whether or not he's going to be jumping off the corkscrew again. That looks a much cleaner line. As we see it just cocking its front leg there. Very active AMG around this tricky circuit. It's a definite fan and driver circuit. You can have some really, really competitive racing in pretty much any classification of car around this track. Technical in all the right places, but also very, very fast. So no improvements made from Bruce Law as well. Track temperatures currently sat at 131 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty darn hot. That's going to be very tricky as this qualification session progresses through. Also going to make it very, very tricky when we come into the race. So we'll keep an eye out on those track temperatures and how they fluctuate. No real changes at the moment, but we have got a big step up from Lecky at the moment, sat in 4th position on the provisional grid. Second row will do him nicely to try and build upon his 5th place finish of last week. He also qualified very well, if I'm right in remembering last week, Lecky 2000, so good to see him getting some much warranted position on track inside a qualification session. Definitely puts in enough time working on his setups, as well as putting plenty of time into the community. We've got Jack coming up on the screen, asking whether or not Bruce is going to benefit from running Laguna Seca in the GT1s on Thursday. I think he might well do that, Jack. He got very, very well acquainted after 45 minutes of racing inside the GT1s. Bit of a different beast, the GT3s, to the 1990s GT1 cars that we operate on a Thursday evening at 8 o'clock. If you're keen on seeing how that race panned out, we're currently working on getting the upload sorted. Unfortunately unable to broadcast that one live, but you'll be able to see all of that action so long as you subscribe to the Flux Motorsport TV YouTube channel, and you'll get a notification when that upload has finally finished. But yeah, Jack, to answer your question, I think it's definitely going to help him. It can't put you a foot wrong putting some extra time on track. And if I know Bruce Law like I think I do, I can imagine that he also put in quite a bit of practice time for that GT1 car, trying to get the setup honed and getting his muscle memory working in. But differences in braking zones and even the turning of these GT3 cars, they definitely behave a lot different. So whilst it's going to be a benefit, hopefully he's able to eradicate some of that muscle memory and get it used to being in a GT3 car instead of a GT1. But St. Bath looks as though he's going to be the dominating force here. We've seen it in previous weeks. Perhaps not so much in qualification. Bruce Law's been the unstoppable force in that respect, but St. Bath has really started to pull it together. We've seen him in a couple of unlucky incidents in previous races, getting tied up or getting caught in a bit of traffic, picking up damage here and there, but he's really starting to make his presence known, and I'm pretty sure that being sat on the top of the championship standings is going to urge you on to try and repeat these performances. But he's a whole, well, almost 7/10 quicker than his fastest rival on track at the moment. So Let currently running 5/10 quicker than 1 to 13. We've seen some great performances from 1 to 13, but he's also got himself involved in a couple of little incidents, as we see St. Bath there, perhaps just catching a little bit too much grass and losing his rear end. Really, really commonplace to go off on the track, that one, especially again as your tyres do start to give way. So all U82 in his bright blue Mercedes AMG, the number 9 currently running pretty well, 2.5 seconds away from the leader of St. Bath with 4 minutes of qualification to go. Finds himself with a 2/10 buffer to Immortalis in 7th place, with Old Smoky just behind him. Then we've got Dr. Proctor in 9th position with Luke in 10th. Looks as though Luna Zodiac, after his fantastic qualification performance inside the Formula Renaults this morning, doesn't look as though he can recreate it here in the GT3s. Currently sat in the pits, but he's almost 5 seconds off the pace of the pole sitter at the moment, so he's going to want to get himself back out on track and try and make some improvements to that. It looks as though All Right Turkish finding himself in 12th place, 5.1 seconds behind the leader, and then KML Bryan currently almost 6 seconds behind St. Bath. So unless he finds some time out there, he's going to find himself at the back of the pack in what is a very tricky first lap around Laguna Seca. When you're coming off the grid, mainly because of these first 3 corners. In fact, let's jump into the cockpit now of all U82. In fact, we'll jump on his roof, get a bit of a better picture. So it's this section that we're talking about, really tight, or a lot tighter than you expect. Right-hander coming in here. This one is going to be flat, maybe with a bit of a lift. Some people do also brake, but you're going to want to chuck the car in there. But look how much of the track that you use. If you're side by side with another car, things are going to get pretty hairy around there. Then you've got two options. You can either late brake and throw in quite late, as we've seen all U82 do there, or you can aim for the apex and hope that you don't oversteer coming out of the corner. Then arguably the trickiest corner on the circuit. I know I certainly find that it is, as we've just seen all U82 going in there. But then the most famous corner of this circuit, and of quite a lot of circuits around the globe, the dreaded corkscrew. As long as you get your braking right, it should treat you quite nicely, unless you run a little bit wide on exit. But some really tricky corners when you're going side by side around Laguna Seca. So being at the back of the pack is a pretty daunting place to be, unless you want to try and let the guys ahead of you build up a little bit of a gap and then pick them off one by one. Switching back over to our pole sitter at the moment though, on with St. Bath and his Audi R8. Still sitting 67 tenths above Bruce Law now though. Bruce Law's ended up going quicker than Fast AF Gamer. That must have been the last lap around. So it looks as though it's going to be a St. Bath 1-2 on the grid, unless we get any changes in this remaining 1 minute of the session. St. Bath certainly got enough fuel left in, I think, for one more lap. He's only going to have enough time for that as well, so he'll be throwing absolutely everything at this. You can see him there pushing the car to the absolute limit. The rear end wanting to slip away from him, but he's kept it in check nicely. You see him opting for that quite early throw in, aiming for the apex and then driving it all the way out. Here's the corner that always catches me out. You see a bit of a lift, just riding the edge of the track limits, but it looks to be safe, and then he's going to be flat out all the way up the hill to the top of the corkscrew, and then really hard onto the brakes, knock it down the gears, usually into third gear, sometimes second, and then a drive away. Slight lift coming into this corner usually from most drivers, unless you've got the mechanical grip, and then it's going to be big touch of the brakes, down a gear, and then flat back on it all the way up into the final turn. Let's have a look what St. Bath has got this time around. 122.033 to beat. He's not going to do it this time around. Let's flick on over to Bruce Law. Looks as though he's just reaching the sort of halfway point on the approach now up to the corkscrew. Just passing Luke in his Porsche 911. Looks as though that's seen better days, so perhaps getting frequented with one of the walls around here. Here Bruce there just having to lift off and balance that throttle a little bit just to try and keep the power on in that Merc. So that's a noticeable difference to the Audi R8 that we saw passing before us in St. Bath. Is there going to be an improvement from Bruce Law? Doesn't look as though there is, so he's going to have to resign himself to second place unless Fast AF Gamer can do anything about it. We flick over now to his BMW M6 as he just comes around the final corner, crosses the line now, and will we see a change? Doesn't look as though it is, so the first top three are locked in unless Immortalis, Dr. Proctor or Luke can upset this. There is also, Alright Turkish on track as well. That might have a chance. Immortalis comes across the line with no improvement being made in his track position. So that concludes the qualification session here at race 4 in the GT3 Championship. St. Bath taking pole position and the bonus point that goes with it, with Bruce Law making up the front row. Then we've got Fast AF Gamer and Lecky 2000 making up the second, with all U82 and 1 to 13 on third row. Immortalis, one of our new drivers, on the fourth row alongside Old Smoky, with Dr. Potford in the fifth row alongside Luke Snipes. And then as we move down to the back of the grid, we've got Luna Zodiac in 11th place with Alright Turkish alongside him, and then KML Bryan in 13th place at the back of the grid. So as ever, the drivers are going to have 2 minutes to try and set up the cars, along with race strategies for this one. I think we're pretty high on the chances of seeing some pit stops, irregardless of any damage being caused to the cars. I can imagine some of the guys are going to want to come in for tyres at certain points. Tyre wear isn't massive around Laguna Seca, but the track temperatures are up pretty high. And although the drivers are running on hard slicks, those hard slicks are going to want to give up a little bit later on in the race. So just over 1 minute remaining of the Tinker time out on track. Let me know your predictions for this one. Certainly going to be interesting. Okay, KML Brian with some pretty heavy support on the YouTube channel. He's got a mountain to climb, but won't it be great if he can get himself at least into the top 10 come the end of this race? Now we're going to see a battle for turn 1 between the Audi R8 and the AMG. St. Bath has actually got the optimum line for this one. Bruce Law's going to have to go around the outside, and he has also got an extra car length to make up. But that AMG can get away quickly, provided he puts it in the right position. So sat on the grid, 23 seconds remaining, and then we're going to get this race underway here at Laguna Seca. Remember, round 4 of the GT3 Championship. Next race along will be round 5, and then we'll be entering the second half of our championship season here at Flux Motorsport. 5 seconds remaining now. These guys cutting it close. We may well see a retirement come the end of this. Here we are now waiting for the lights. We currently sit on board with all U82. And we'll try and have a look at how the front cars get away. Here are the lights. And we're greening away here at Laguna Seca. Quite a delayed start from all U82, but a really great start from Lecky as he looks to try and get himself past Bruce Law. It ends up being covered off, so he has to think about it another way. We enter turn 1 and it looks as though the front pack are away cleanly. Bruce Law and St. Bath both going side by side here. But thankfully, all cars appear to be away nicely. It looks as though All Right Turkish and KML Brian have switched places. So KML Brian with a good start. As we see Wanta there just getting pushed out towards the outside with all U82 as he puts his elbows out trying to make up for the rest of it. That looks as though it's Lecky spun on track. So Lecky's had a nightmare there. He's going to fall all the way down to the back of it, I think. Perhaps not so much with All Right Turkish. All Right Turkish looks as though he's trailing. He is actually away though inside that Demon Tweak, so not sure where the deficit came in from that one. Bruce Law has ended up taking first place off St. Bath though in this first lap, so St. Bath's going to be fighting for that one back. You can rest assured with that. And we're now on board with 1 to 13. He's going to try and track down the new driver. eMotorsports has found himself all the way up into 4th place. That's following Lecky's spin, so let's jump on with him as he's around with the top 3. Looks to be a clean line, and he's stuck right into the slipstream of Fast AF there, who in turn is following up the slipstream of St. Bath. This is just going to allow Bruce Law to extend his lead even further. Have to be careful under brakes, but it looks as though eMotorsports is more than equal to it, and he's actually looking to take Fast AF up the inside. Is he going to get it stuck for the next corner though, where he's pushed to the outside? Looks as though one of them's going to have to back off, but really close wheel-to-wheel action there between these two drivers. eMotorsports making his presence known right from the very start, going toe-to-toe with some very good drivers and really making a name for himself. So Bruce Law continues to lead ahead of St. Bath with Fast AF Gamer in 3rd, eMotorsports in 4th, Wanta is in 5th with all U82 in 6th. Dr. Popter, then he in 7th position, apologies for that, just knocking my mic all over the place, with Luna Zodiac in 8th. KML Brian has since worked his way up to 9th position, so good form for him. Then Luke in 10th, Old Smokey in 11th, All Right Turkish in 12th, and then Lecky is in the pits, I'm assuming to try and get some damage repairs. We see Fast AF Gamer absolutely losing the rear end of that car. It just came around the front. and he's going to find himself dropping down that running order pretty quick. Looks as though he's got himself back on track, but that's the McLaren of Luna Zodiac there, so he's back on track in 8th place. Big costly mistake there from Fast AF. Certainly got the pace to try and make it up, but plenty of dramatics to go down here in the opening stages of this GT3 race. Return back to the leaders at the moment. Bruce Law leading St. Bath. So we've got Audi R8 versus that mighty AMG. St. Bath making it a pretty uncomfortable affair for Bruce Law at the moment. Less than half a second, and he's maintaining that gap as well. So St. Bath will just be waiting for any form of mistake to be made before he can jump right onto it. Just onto the approach, and let's have a look at how these braking lines differ between the two cars. Doesn't look as though there's much in it at all between these two drivers. Let's have a little bit of a look at the action that's going on behind. But now joining Luna Zodiac's McLaren 12C, and that's Fast AF Gamer, who had a big spin inside that M6. Currently raining down on him, but Luna Zodiac won't make it easy for him. This is for position, and although Fast AF Gamer can put in some quick lap times, it's not the easiest place to overtake safely here, and Fast AF won't be looking to jeopardise his race by making any rash moves, not with 40 minutes remaining. Plenty of race time still to go here. Let's flip back over to our leaders. That lead has since gotten even smaller. It's now 1/4 of a second between St. Bath and Bruce Law at the moment. Looks as though Immortalis has got a potential warning from the race director, so he's going to be serving a slowdown. But that's not going to worry these guys. They're currently 2.7 seconds ahead of 3rd position as they battle for top spot. Looks as though the gap's just evening out, so a potential minor mistake from St. Bath. Doesn't look as though Bruce Law's making any. St. Bath there just running quite a lot of dirt on the right hand side of the track. He's managing to hold it together though, so it's not costing him too much, but we see him just dropping another couple of tenths. So perhaps very eager to get into 1st place, and that could well cost him if he pushes himself a little bit too far. Let's jump back to the battle that we were watching previously. So it looks as though Fast AF Gamer and Luna Zodiac, looks as though we've had an incident there that potentially Fast AF Gamer's caused. That's why we can see him slowing down for him. So a good bit of sportsmanship there from Fast AF Gamer. Looks as though the two would come together just potentially at the top of the corkscrew. Fast AF just slowing down to allow that position to be given back and allow racing to continue. That's what we like to see. Flip back on over to KML Bryan and Alright Turkish. Alright Turkish in the Z4 at the moment. KML Bryan in that new Nissan GTR. He's switched from his previous car. I think he was previously running the AMG, I do believe, but I could well be wrong on that one. He switched himself over to the Nissan GTR, so used up his free car transfer for the season, and hoping to try and get it hooked up a little bit better. Just see a big lock up on the left hand side there, so pretty heavy into braking. We can see him having a little look around, trying to look for the gaps that Alright Turkish is leaving, but there isn't much at the moment. So no change from the front. Bruce Law leads to St. Bath by half a second. Immortalis in 3rd, who's got a couple of seconds now ahead of the 4th place of Wanta. And then it's All U82 in 5th with Dr. Proctor in 6th place. Fast AF Gamer in 7th, along with Luna Zodiac, who we saw battling before. Looks as though Fast AF has since got past Luna Zodiac, but he's not giving up that position. In fact, let's switch over to that. Yep, you can see Luna Zodiac's 12C there just in the background. So he's still managing to pretty much keep up with Fast AF. Let's have a look at the lap times this time around. I'm going to be expecting a pretty hot one from Fast AF. He can turn on the times when he needs to, and look at that come down. It was previously a 1:32. It's now a 1:24.08. which is the fastest lap of anybody bar Luna Zodiac that last time around. So Luna Zodiac obviously playing with the benefit of driving with a quick driver ahead of him. It's good to see until we saw him picking up a little bit too much dirt. Maybe just understeered a little bit and ran off track. So we see him falling away a little bit now. Let's go back over to this back of the pack battle. This one was looking like it's pretty hot. I am keeping an eye up on our leaders in first and second place. But I want to see how this one pans out between KML Bryan and Alright Turkish. KML Bryan, remember, in the GTR with Alright Turkish in that Demon Tweak Z4. Now, Jack mentioned it earlier in the YouTube comments about Bruce Law having a bit of a benefit from running the GT1s around Laguna Seca on Thursday. There's a few members of this grid that were also inside that race. Alright Turkish being one of them. I know he's put plenty of Laguna Seca time in over the last week or so. So that's obviously paying dividends at the moment as we see KML Bryan there just letting the back end step away from him. That's going to cost him a lot of time inside this battle. So let's flick on back over to another one that's happening on track at the moment. We've got Luke in the Porsche 911 followed by Old Smokey in the Ginetta. Old Smokey, the only person inside the Ginettas, and he struggled to really make it work properly for him so far this season, but looking to try and take on Luke, who's been vastly improved since his first outing in the GT3. Had a really good race last time. I think he may well have finished. I'm just getting up the statistics now. I think he finished in the top 5 in that one. Well, in fact, he was 6th place around Catalonia last week. So we saw big improvements from him, but he's got Old Smokey, who's an old hat at sim racing, now sniffing all over the back of him, looking for an opportunity to pounce inside that Ginetta. Not going to be able to do it on this corner, but will he get the drive coming out of it on the approach up to the corkscrew? Ginetta may not be the fastest car on the grid, but it certainly handles very well. And how's he going to change in his approach to this? Luke catches a little bit too much grass. It's going to be messy through the corkscrew, and that's going to allow Old Smokey to have a little shot around the outside. He's not going to make it work this time around, but any more mistakes like that from Luke, and I can pretty much assure you Old Smokey will be in 9th position. Let's flick on back up, a little bit further up the grid. So Immortalis currently running in 3rd. Looks as though he's got Wanta, which he has indeed, in the Porsche 911, right behind him now, looking to try and take that final podium spot away. And it looks as though we've got back markers ahead of them as well. That might well be Lecky. I think it is Lecky's AMG in the yellow and black, just ahead of these two. He will will move across to let these guys pass under the blue flags, but it's not going to happen just yet, and it can always play into the sort of lines that the approaching cars take. So we'll see how this one pans out, but 1 to 13 is desperate to try and get into that 3rd position spot with 33 minutes and 55 seconds remaining of this race. St. Bath continues to remain around about half a second to a second behind Bruce Law as it stands. And it looks as though that battle for 9th place as well between Luke and Old Smokey is still playing out. As we see Wanta there making a mistake. Did he catch his nose on the front end? Because if so, that's going to be some pretty heavy damage repairs. Let's have a look at the front end of that 911. Doesn't look as though he has, so maybe he's just locked it up under braking. But that's all U82 that you can see barreling right behind him. So all U82 is now going to have a chance to try and take that 4th spot away from him. 1 to 13 is just going to have to try and get his head on straight and maybe stabilise this 911 a little bit. Settle into his driving pace and run his own race here instead of trying to hound down onto the 3rd position. A 4th place finish will be great for him, but remember, he is looking pretty tasty in the standings. He's currently 3rd and only 3 points away from the leader, so that pretty much sums up why he's pushing so hard. He'll be desperate to try and claw up as many points as he can in this race. So Immortalis, we flick back round to him. Looks as though he's now got past Lecky 2000, who is a back marker. Currently running at the back of this one after making an unscheduled pit stop. And St. Bath is now fallen outside of the 2nd window, it seems. As we see Dr. Proctor just having a look at Matthew, Fast AF Gamer there. Doesn't make it count. He ends up running wide, catching far too much dirt, and he's going to have to regroup and try again with that one. not really the corner that you want to go too wide into, and that was the reason why. So all your 82, we flash back round to him. That's Wanter that you can see in the background trying to chase him down. But good running so far. Looks as though he's kept his nose clean and it's paying off. Finds himself in 4th position. This will be a great finish for him. He currently resides in 6th place in the championship standings on 58 points. So that's only 25 away from the leader. Barend is currently leading this championship, remember, on 83 points, tied along with Fast AF Gamer. Fast AF Gamer currently resides in 6th place in this race, so it will make it very interesting if it runs all the way to the end in these positions, but I don't for 1 minute think that that's going to be the case. Let's flip on over to the battle for 1st position. In fact, let's go on board, I think, with St. Bath. We'll utilise some of these angles. And we'll just continue to watch this battle. So this is St. Bath at the moment. In fact, let me bring up the speedo so we can see how these cars are being driven around here. You can see St. Bath just trying to balance the brakes nicely, making sure that he avoids all lockups, but then it's going to be foot flat to the floor, stepping up through these gears as quick as possible. But the out and out pace of that AMG is just too much to compete with, it seems, for the Audi R8. See, they're stepping down into 2nd. He's not going to have much of 2nd before he needs to shift back up. And see, it's a lift and throw procedure for St. Bath, but you could see there the brake lights of the AMG ahead in Bruce Law. Just a little tap to the brakes just to maybe settle the suspension before that big right-hand turn. It is a very high-paced corner, that one. You don't want to unsettle the suspension on the way in, so maybe just a tap of the brakes just to get the car sat on its haunches. So currently watching St. Bath trying to chase down Bruce Law. We are on lap 11 of this GT3 round 4 race around Laguna Seca. 45 minutes of action. We're 15 minutes through with that one, so 30 minutes remaining. Anything can happen, but these two looking like they're all set for a big battle, and it looks as though it's going to go the distance. Let's jump back onto our trackside camera and knock off the speedo. Just following St. Bath and Bruce Law around for a hot lap that time around. It shows the margin of error between these two drivers is barely existent. We're talking lockups will make a considerable difference, or just that little bit of over-rotation in the turning. That looks as though that's our race leaders just coming around KML Bryan as a back marker. It looks as though St. Bath's actually got the run on Bruce Law here. We're going to see him move up the inside. He actually lifts away from it, but it certainly looked as though he had the drive. Let's jump back into the chase cam so we can get a better view of this. See him, he's holding his position, but maybe just a little bit of double turning there. Bruce gets up a little bit of dirt, and that could well open the door as well. But the power of that AMG power unit just not able to compete with the Audi. Great run through the corkscrew there from St. Bath. That is how it's taken. Nice and smooth all the way through. No tyre squeal, no rear end stepping out, and that R8 looks absolutely planted. 2 corners to go. And St. Bath still looking for the opportunity, but he catches the dirt. We caught it absolutely perfectly in the chase cam. And that is now advantage to Bruce Law. Lap 12, in fact just beginning lap 13 with 28 minutes to go. St. Bath now finds himself 7 seconds behind Bruce Law. Just caught a little bit too much dirt on that rear left-hand tyre. And that was just enough to spin that car around, and under the premise of tyre wear and tyre temperatures, that little bit of dust just does enough to completely break traction, and St. Bath paid the price there. Let's switch back on over to our leader and bring on the map as well. Let's see where he is. So he's got plenty of clear air here, bags of it, so Bruce Law can pretty much run his own race now. We'll see him sitting into comfortable laps, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be slow. In fact, they're going to be very quick compared to most of the drivers on the grid. But he'll be running his race as comfortable as he can now, just to make sure that he maintains that track position and doesn't make any silly mistakes which are going to cost him this first place. He'll want to get himself back on the top of these championship standings as soon as possible. Remember, folks, he has got an unbeaten run in all of the races that he started, Bruce Law, and actually had the fastest lap in all but one, which was around Zolder, where Fast AF Gamer actually looked as though he took that one. So Bruce Law asserting dominance. Looks as though we've got Old Smokey in the pits, and is he going to be overtaken now by Lecky? It depends on how big of a pit stop it is. Looks as though there is some damage to the front end of that Ginetta though. It could well be costly, and it looks like it's a long stop as well, as we see Lecky and KML Bryan now going past him in the pits. Looks as though KML Bryan's actually coming up to the back end of Lecky. Let's have a look at how this one pays out. We see once again big lock up there from KML Bryan on the left hand side. He really is stomping those brakes, and it looks as though he's gotten a little bit wayward there on the approach out of turn one. It's quite a tricky one just because of the transitions between the two corners there, and it looks as though he's just unable to balance the throttle well enough. KML Bryan is racing on a gamepad, so that can explain quite a few of the issues that these drivers get. Most of our field currently operating on a steering wheel of some sorts, but when you are trying to balance it on a joypad, it can be pretty tricky on the thumbs or the fingers depending on how you've got it set up. We are tracking Lecky just as he comes up to the corkscrew, but it looks as though we've got a bit of on-track action between 1 to 13 and Fast AF Gamer. 1 to 13 in the Porsche 911 and Fast AF in that distinctive BMW M6. Not many drivers opting for the Beamers, but Fast AF has certainly made it work for him this season. Looks as though he's really bringing on pressure to the back of Wanta's Porsche at the moment. I think the Porsche is going to have the drive away coming out of that corner, but let's see what the distance is between them as they come up to turn one after that M6 has had a chance to really open up its turbos. And deficit hasn't changed that much, so he's running well at the moment, Wanta. We've spoken about him when I've been joined by the console, unable to make it with us this week, but we've discussed him I think pretty much every race this season, and he's been making marked improvements. It just seems to be that little bit of consistency which we saw him just losing out on a little bit earlier on in this race. We are now approaching the halfway point. Tyres are going to start to get worn a little bit. Looks as though we've got Lecky moving out the way for all U82 there, just to up ahead. So these two are going to encounter Lecky as well as a back marker pretty shortly. Lecky looks as though he's running quite a good recovery race though. If we keep an eye out on his splits between himself and Alright Turkish in 10th place at the moment, he is starting to claw away some of that deficit there. So with 23 minutes remaining, as I say, just approaching the halfway point in this race, Lecky's got a good shout in it, just to try and get inside that top 10. You won't be happy though that he had that spin on lap 1. Be interesting to see in the stewards room whether or not anything gets raised against that one. So our running order around Laguna Seca so far: Bruce Law sits in top spot. He's currently on lap 16 with Saint Bath in second. Immortalis, our newcomer, in third place with All U82 in fourth, which you can just see there ahead of Lecky. Then we come down to 1 to 13, who are currently following around in his battle with Matthew, aka Fast AF Gamer. Then we've got the Doc in 7th with Luna Zodiac in 8th, Luke in 9th with Alright Turkish in 10th. Looks as though Fast AF is going to make the move happen up the inside now. Is he going to have the drive? He's certainly got the line coming up into this next one. They're going to go side by side. Looks as though Fast AF just lifting off the throttle there, not wanting to cause an accident. If you do want to be on the right hand side to take that very fast left hander after the lift, or the touch of brakes. So Fast AF looks as though he ran it smart then, not run it hard. And he's going to have to come back and apply that pressure onto Wanta once again. Let's have a look at our timing boards while we've got a little bit of a second. So we're seeing race director penalties being applied to both St. Bath, Immortalis, Fast AF and Lecky 2000. All of those penalties being applied currently at 1 second. So that's worth keeping an eye on. We'll wait and see how that progresses as this race goes through. So 1 second worth of race time will be added on by the race director come the end of that for all drivers that have got a penalty. And should they get any more penalties, they're only going to increase up until the point that they're forced to complete a drive-through by the race director. And that's definitely going to want to be avoided. Great battle forming up here between these two. We saw Fast AF Gamer with the drive coming out of this next approaching corner. Is he going to be able to have it once again? Looks as though he's potentially having a look, but he's right on the back end of Wanta's Porsche now. He's going to continue to chase him through, maybe try and force an error, and it looks as though it's come. Wanta 13 gets a load of dirt. That pushes him wide, and now looks as though he's just managed to hold his line in time for the corkscrew here. Saw a big stamp on the brakes there just to try and get that Porsche settled, so Matthew unable to get past him at the moment. It's a fine battle between the two. I did actually think that Fast AF was going to get it done there up around the outside, but Wanta just able to shut the door on him on the approach to the corkscrew and make him push back and do it all for another lap. So lap 18 now. Bruce Law continues to lead ahead of St. Bath with Immortalis in third, All U82 in fourth place, and then this battle for fourth behind. Looks as though Fast AF Gamer's rear end just stepping him away from him there ever so slightly. And just to try and show the sort of pace of one of our back markers at the moment, Lecky 2000 is a back marker, but he's holding his position ahead of this battle that we're watching on track, and he's also keeping up with All U82, who's in fourth place. Remember, Lecky did qualify in fourth place on the grid, I think it was. So he's able to set hot laps, and it's certainly looking pretty hot right now. Does look as though Wanta's just getting into that sort of margin where a couple more car lengths and Lecky is going to have to let him past. Bradley decides to do it on the corkscrew. Lecky just taking it nice and slow, allowing those two past. So the battle continues to rage on. Past the halfway stage now, and these two drivers looking really solid. Looks as though my commentator's mention of him has really got him to get his head screwed on straight, and perhaps the curse is struck. It looked as though he actually lost it earlier on there in the race. This time he's got Fast AF just behind him. You know, Fast AF isn't going to allow him past. We saw Wanta there having a little look up inside and outside at a little bit of a touch between the two there. Looks as though things are getting a little bit heated. Wanta may want to back away from this one. After some of the common courtesy that we saw Fast AF showing him, Wanta now really piling on the aggressive pressure here, and has potentially got some damage to that car as well. He did get T-boned by Fast AF. Lecky's loving this though. He's now got himself a free slipstream to try and blast up these straights through. So looking at Lecky's times, he remains 18 seconds behind 10th place All Right Turkish. So let's have a look how that continues to move. In fact, it's just gone down to 17 seconds just since I mentioned it, and it's come down once again. So keep an eye out on that one. That one's going to look pretty tasty by the end of this race. Probably not going to be for another 10 or 15 minutes or so, as Wanta looks as though he's overcooked his tyres, just completely loses it, and I think that's going to cost him now in his battle between Fast AF. It's actually going to potentially put him, if he's not careful, into the clutches of Luna Zodiac. He's going to have to try and get those tyres to cool down now. Unless it was just a big puff of dirt, but it looked as though he was pretty stable on the racing line, so that's what makes me think that maybe it's tyre temperatures. So let's switch back on over to our leader, give our leader some airtime here. Lap 20, currently sitting 5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. Looks as though he's just approaching Luke as a back marker. Luke moves aside for him and makes it nice and easy for Bruce Law to pass. But we can see there, from the split times, just even a simple pass away from a back marker like that, it did cost Bruce Law around about 1/4 of a second. So even with the best efforts, back markers do cost you a little bit of time, even when everything's going right. So looks as though Bruce Law has now got clear track for another couple of corners, and that might well see him all the way to the end of the race unless we see any mistakes being made from those ahead of him. So St. Bath is just over 4 seconds back away from Bruce Law at the moment. Immortalis remains in third position. We can just see St. Bath there just coming around the turn 1 of the background of that shot that we had. Then All U82 in 4th, followed by Fast AF Gamer and Wanta in 6th after that spin. Luna Zodiac currently reside in 7th place alongside Doc, with Luke in 9th place, Alright Turkish in 10th, and he's still being chased down by Lecky, who's now within 10 seconds. So it looks as though that battle's going to come a little bit sooner than anticipated. We'll keep an eye out on that. Meanwhile, we go over to Fast AF Gamer and his battle now for 4th place. So he's really stepped up the ranks here after a big mistake pushed him all the way down to 8th place right at the very start of this race. Now finds himself trailing on the back of All U82 in 4th position. And it's all down to those lap times. Have a look at that last time around. 1:23.981 from Fast AF Gamer, whereas All U82 able to put in a 1:25.6. Looks as though Doc is now coming into the pit lane. Potential change of tyres from him unless he's had a little bit of a mistake, as we see All U82 catching the dirt, running wide, but it's not going to be enough to allow Matthew through that easily. Matthew, aka Fast AF, has got the inside line though, and he's taken it under braking into the corkscrew. So All U82 there missing out. He slips down into 5th place, but it looks as though he's going to have another bite of the cherry. In fact, he takes it back really easily. I wonder whether or not that was a slowdown, maybe for a cut of the corkscrew there. Let's bring up the timing boards. Let's have a little look at this. We see Lecky there eating the wall in the background. He's had an absolute nightmare. He's done it right before the pit lane, so that isn't too bad, but it is going to cost him pretty heavily, as it looks as though he has to spin that car around just to get it into the pits. In fact, he's pulling his best Austin Powers impression here in his forklift. Is he going to get himself round? It looks as though he's finally in there, and that's going to be a lengthy repair once again. Interesting as well, we can see KML Bryan's GTR retired in the pit lane, so doesn't look as though he's able to make it towards the end of this race. He's retired to the box, and it's unfortunately nil point for our young driver once again in the GT3s. I think I make that. He hasn't actually. Oh no, he has finished a couple of races, usually at the back, but unfortunately it's going to be a DNF for him this time around. Lecky entering the pits. That's going to be in there for some time, so that'll be a sigh of relief from Alright Turkish, I'm sure of that, because Lecky was raining down on him. And since that retirement, a few drivers have stepped up, so it looks as though Alright Turkish now in 9th position, Doc in 10th with Old Smokey in 11th. Lecky, once he gets himself out of the pits, will find himself in 12th. Meanwhile, Bruce Law is now being chased down by St. Bath. That lead was around about 4.25 seconds last time we were checking on it. It's now down to 2, so St. Bath has found a right burst of pace in the last couple of laps. And it's pressure on now, 13 minutes of the session remaining, and that lead getting less and less as I look on here between St. Bath and Bruce Law. Let's bring up the timing boards. Let's have a look at penalties. So it looks as though Lecky's got a 2 second along with Old Smokey. Then it's just 1 second for St. Bath, Immortalis and Fast AF Gamer. Looks as though Old Smokey has just had to come into the pits again in that GT5 Ginetta. Sorry, that GT3 Ginetta. It's absolutely taken a battering in this race. It looks as though we've got Bruce Law and St. Bath going out for the non-stop strategy, along with Immortalis and Fast AF Gamer. I think all U82 and Wanta actually have continued without a pit stop, as well as Luna Zodiac, who's actually having a really good run of this, currently sat in 7th place. Just bringing up his previous finishes. He's finished in 8th in both of the races that he's managed to complete. That was round 2 and round 3 at Zolder and Catalunya. So it'll be his best finish in the GT3. He's only by 1 position, but with only 12 seconds difference. In fact, it's now gone down to 10. In fact, it's fallen away massively. Flip on over to Wanta, and it looks as though he's in the dirt once again at that very same corner. So that corner's caught Wanta out 3 times now. And I hate to think of the amount of damage it's done to that Porsche. He's done very well to avoid the pit lane, but he's now only got 7 seconds of a lead to Luna Zodiac. And with a potentially damaged car, it's going to be even harder for him to maintain that. Looks as though it's fallen to 6th, but there's no sight of the Aussie in his McLaren 12C in the background, so he's still got a little bit of cushion room ahead of him. Looks as though we've had a mistake in that time as well from St. Bath. St. Bath's now fallen 8.7 seconds behind Bruce Law. And a battle going on at the moment between All Right Turkish, it seems. And yeah, that's the Doc ahead of him in that yellow Ferrari. So it looks as though it's a little bit bigger. It just came up as the indicator because it's within 3 seconds. But if we jump on over to the chase cam of All Right Turkish, have a look, see whether or not he's able to make gains upon this one. See Doc just catching his left-hand tyres onto that dirt. It's a dangerous game. It's so easy to high-side the car once you finally gain traction when you're back on track. Looks as though the Ferrari's pretty well balanced. It may not be the quickest car, but it is probably one of the easiest to drive in all different conditions, that Ferrari. It looks as though he's made it work, as has Immortalis, who's currently sat in 3rd place. So great run from his first outing here in the GT3s. Let's go back trackside. Continuing to watch these guys. We are now lap 25 with less than 10 minutes to go with this GT3 round 4 race at Laguna Seca. Remember, if you're looking to catch all of the action that we have here at Flux Motorsport TV, be sure to hit the subscribe button to the YouTube channel, and you'll get notified on a Thursday evening, Sunday morning and a Sunday evening for all of our live races, as well as all of your setup and PlayStation tips, just to try and get the best that you can out of Project Cars 2. Plenty to come on the YouTube channel that you won't want to miss. Of course, next race coming into next week in round 5 of the championship goes to the GT1s, which is going to be around the Le Mans Bugatti circuit this week. So join myself on track, but Lecky in the pit box commentating on that one. Unfortunately unable to bring it to you live and direct, but we will be uploading them after the race so that you can make sure you don't miss out on what has been a pretty close filled championship. New drivers as well to look out for inside that one. Looks as though All Right Turkish has let that gain that he was building up. It looks as though Wanta's spun around as he was approaching the back marker. That's going to cost Wanta pretty badly. That's going to allow Luna in if he doesn't get it straightened up. Can we see Luna's car in the background? Not yet, but difference to 5 seconds. So Wanta just looking to try and make it around the outside of the back marker. Should have potentially waited for him to move alongside, but obviously wanting to try and throw down as much as he can in his battle for championship points here. Unfortunately, it's cost him, as we see those 4 wheels turn into 3 wheels for a little while there. That Porsche looking so stiff that can't even keep its wheels on the ground. We see the big flash of lights, so Wanta obviously not happy with All Right Turkish there under the blue flags. Looks as though Dr. Proctor just getting himself tied up as well. Just managing to keep it back on track as he returned on there. So you're currently watching Alright Turkish in the Z4, but 1 to 13 inside that Porsche 911. Pushing very hard into turn 1 there, running very deep, and this looks as though it's going to allow the Doc to make a pass on Alright Turkish just behind them. Let's keep an eye out on this one. Things hotting up between the Ferrari and the Z4 in the later stages of this race. Also worth noting that Fast AF Gamer is now right onto the back of eMotorsports. We'll keep an eye out on that split and switch on over to it if it gets any closer. eMotorsports, after demonstrating a really fine race, continuing to maintain his third position, which he's held for the vast majority of this race, now under pressure from Fast AF Gamer. Fast AF Gamer did get knocked down to 8th position, but he's since battled all the way through the pack. So we see there the Doc just running a little bit too, cutting a little bit too much off the entry into the corkscrew. That's going to potentially get him a slowdown. We bring up the timing boards. No penalties to speak of from those two at the moment. Let's jump on over to Fast AF Gamer and his battle for third place, which he's since taken. Unfortunately, jumped over to that one a little bit too late. But Fast AF Gamer manages to make his way into third position. He'll be more than happy with that after the race that he's led. So 38 seconds behind the leader, which is 32 seconds or 33 seconds behind St. Bath. So he's not going to be able to make that up. But a podium finish, based upon the race that he's had, it is a fine finish indeed. In fact, it's probably going to be one of my drives of the day there. He's done very, very well to claw it all back up. And we've seen some very close racing action between drivers that he's encountered on his way back up to the front of the pack. Let's get back down to the battle for 9th place. Alright Turkish and Doc. Doc, the new driver, debuting in the GT3s this evening. Alright Turkish was in the GT3s last season at Rubbins Racing, but he's now going toe to toe. In fact, we see him there just putting his elbows out. The Doc runs off track ever so slightly, and it looks as though that's Luna Zodiac approaching them now under blue flag conditions. So Alright Turkish is going to have to move aside and allow him through. It looks as though in allowing him through, he just left the door ever so slightly open for the Doc, but Alright Turkish doing quite well there not to allow him through. Let's jump into the chase cam of the Doc and let's have a look at these differences in driving lines. So Bruce Law continues to lead this race. He's got 11.5 seconds now ahead of St. Bath, who in himself is 27 seconds ahead of Fast AF Gamer, who's clawed his way all the way back into third place. Looks as though the Doc's going for the smooth line here. He's going to try and make it count around the outside. Alright Turkish is doing quite a bit of swerving there, and he ends up coming together with him. Just ends up losing it in the end. So the Doc finds himself struggling to get away. He allows Alright Turkish through. Not sure whether or not I would have done that. It looked as though Alright Turkish lost it all on his own accord there. I think I'd have been speeding off and taking that position, but the new boy to Flux Motorsport, abiding the rules, obviously doesn't want to face a steward's inquiry against him his first time around, but he looked more than entitled to try and take that position. And it looks as though Alright Turkish now is pretty safe and secure in that 9th position. 3 minutes remaining now, so we're on lap 30. Potentially got 1, maybe 2 more laps to go. So St. Bath continues to trail behind Bruce Law, who's been a dominant force in this race, and has been in the championship whenever he's been able to start a race, that's for sure. It looks as though actually Doc has managed to get himself right back up again alongside All Right Turkish. So whilst I thought that this battle was over with, certainly doesn't look as though it is. See very different attempts in line and braking there. I think I mentioned in previous races that there are a couple of different options for the racing line around Laguna Seca, especially into turn 1. You can run deep or you can cut it shallow. Now this is where All Right Turkish lost it last time. Keeping it on the straight and narrow this time, but we see there the Doc just moving around to the outside, and it looks as though he's going to face a big battle from All Right Turkish. All Right Turkish is now offline, so he's going to have to try and relinquish that. He doesn't do, and he ends up spinning both drivers away. So let's have a look who's away. So it looks as though the Doc has managed to get away clean. The All Right Turkish recognising that that was his fault by allowing the driver back on track. And we saw it a little bit earlier on with Fast AF, didn't we, in his battle, I think it was with Wanta. And as he approached that particular corner, he knew that you can't get two cars around that particular line. The inside line will not work for you on that corner. So you are going to have to back off or maybe have a touch of the brake and fall back in. And I think that was Turkish's failing there, and it cost both these drivers quite a lot of time out on track. But they're really battling for it, hammer and tongs at the moment. We see that Ferrari with a great drive through the final corner. 57 seconds remaining of this session. Let's have a look at where our race leader is at the moment. So it looks as though there could well be another lap to follow after this one. We might well get up to 34 laps by the end. Just depends when Bruce Law crosses the line, but he is currently in first place. He has got almost 13 seconds to St. Bath in second. Fast AF Gamer in third, with eMotorsports in fourth place, All U82 in fifth, Wanta in sixth, Luna Zodiac in seventh, with Luke in eighth, Doc in ninth. So he's managed to get past All Right Turkish, and it looks as though Turkish has made a mistake, because it looks as though he's trailing him by 4 seconds at the moment. Lecky in 11th, and then Old Smokey, who's had a torrid time in his Ginetta, finds himself in 12th place. So with 7 seconds, 6 to count down, is Bruce Law going to cross the line? Looks as though he's going to make it. In fact, we see him slowing down. It looks as though Bruce Law's had enough. He slows down to make sure that he crosses the line and finishes the event. So it's going to be, I think, the race victory for Bruce Law. Can't tell whether or not they are still racing on track. Let's have a look here. Does sound as though Bruce Law's still throwing down pace, so I'm assuming actually that this is still the race. Looks as though he did just cross the line in time. I thought he'd slowed down to make the counter by the time he'd crossed the start finish. Looks as though he's going to go for one more. So it looks as though that battle between Doc and All Right Turkish is well and truly over. Doc now sitting 10 seconds above him. So let's flip back on over to Bruce Law leading the race, just coming up to the corkscrew now, ahead of Lecky, who's a couple of laps down, and also approaching Luke, who is also a couple of laps down at this point. So only a couple of corners to go, and this will be his third victory in the GT3s this championship through. The only time he hasn't managed to get first place has been in Zolder, where he was disconnected just before the start. But Bruce Law crosses the line for the race victory. St. Bath is just about to come over the line as well to manage second place. It was a great battle between these two in the very early stages of the race. That went through up until about the first third, until we saw a couple of mistakes just starting to creep on in from St. Bath. Fast AF Gamer, who, as I mentioned not too long ago, possibly my drive of the day from this young lad here, been fantastic in that BMW M6 to get himself composed and keep it going all the way towards the end. Looks as though we've had a bit of a nightmare from All U82. Maybe changing positions there between himself and eMotorsports. So eMotorsports, first time around, racing for Flux Motorsport, he's going to get himself just outside of the podium. It's going to be a fine finish indeed for the lad. Luna Zodiac has since moved up to sixth position. This is going to be Luna's best finish in the championship so far. You see Immortalis now crossing the line. We'll flip on over to All U82, who's himself just coming around the final bend. And then that battered McLaren of Luna Zodiac. Aussie driver limping it across the line. Does enough for 6th place though. Good finish from him. Been wanting to make up for his disconnection earlier on this morning inside the Formula Renault race. Looks as though Wanter's going to finish up in 7th place with Luke in 8th. And here is actually the final running order with all of the race penalties being applied. So Bruce Law leads out, as I mentioned, taking his 3rd victory out of 4 races here in the GT3s. St. Bath does enough for 2nd place with Fast AF Gamer in 3rd position. Looks as though St. Bath has got the fastest lap, so he's going to pick up the bonus points from that one. So good driving from him to get himself an extra point there. Immortalis ends up doing enough for 4th place. All U82 in 5th with Luna Zodiac in 6th. 1 to 13, unfortunately his consistency let him down. He ends up 7th at the end of that one with Luke Snipes in 8th. Dr. Potford in 9th with All Right Turkish in 10th. Lecky in 11th. Old Smokey in 12th. And KML Bryan unfortunately retired. So that's all that we've got for tonight's GT3 Championship. Please keep an eye out on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook for the latest standings updates for all of the action that you've seen here in the week. If you'd like to know more about what we do here at Flux Motorsport, then head on over to fluxmotorsport.com and you'll find on our website a little bit of information about what it is that we aim to do, what it is that we host, and also find the crucial link to our Discord channel. I've been Murphy and it's been a fantastic evening of racing just to follow up from a fantastic morning of racing in this morning's Formula Renaults. Might have a short grid there, but definitely worth checking out that one. Plenty of action around a wet Catalonia for qualification, but then dry later on as the day progressed. You'll be able to join us again through the week. Unfortunately, not live for Thursday, so if you're expecting live racing on Thursday, unfortunately the video will be uploaded. So I'll be joining you once again next Sunday for round 5 of the Formula Renaults. That's live at 10:30 AM Sunday morning. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and we'll see you very shortly. Good night.